Hari Om everyone. We are approaching the end of the classes on Nyaya Sutras. We should finish the text and maybe we can take one last class for the questions or any doubts that you all have. So let's start with the text today. We'll start with the chanting first. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Gananam Tva Ganapati Gam Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Ana Shrinvannuti Siddh Sadhanam. Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha. सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारंभं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. So we are into this last section on the Nyaya Sutras, where we have been looking at the 17th verse so far. So fifth chapter, part 2, or you can say the 10th section in all. So in this fifth chapter, part 2, we have finished the 17th sutra. So Vigyatasya Parishada Tribhihi Tribhihi Api Anucharanam Ananubhashanam. So 5 to 17, it says here that when something has been said and has been understood by the uh, audience, parishad, vigyatasya parishada. So someone has made a statement, and this argument has been made by the first person, and it has been understood by the audience, vigyatasya parishada, triabhihitasya, after repeating three times. Okay, so the audience may have understood it the first time itself, or the second, or the third time, whichever be the case. After three times, it has been definitely understood by the audience. So, as well as the disputant also. So, it has been understood by everyone there. But we aprati ucharanam ananubhashanam. So, ananubhashanam, bhashanam is to speak, ananubhashanam, not speaking or silence. So, this is the fallacy of silence, where the opponent is not able to answer either due to his lack of any logical replies or others. Others will come under a couple of other fallacies. So this one mainly covers the inability or when the argument of the opponent is not there. So basically, he has sort of conceded defeat. He is remaining silent. So ananubhashanam. So this is the fallacy. And then we go to the next one today. So agyanam. Agyanam is ignorance. So avigyatam cha agyanam. So avigyatam cha agyanam is the next fallacy, which is ignorance, not understanding a proposition. So if someone has made a proposition and the opponent has not yet understood it. So he's like thinking, muttering, deciding what to say or not to say. And then finally he concedes that he is not able to uh, understand. So here the same thing, the same rule of the previous sutra will also apply. It is repeated three times again. So this three-time repetition is done. No reply ensures. That means the person is he is not conversant with the topic. Because many times something might come up in an argument. Everyone doesn't know all topics. So sometimes you will not be able to answer. So if someone says, "Have you heard about the conflict in Palestine? Who do you think is responsible?" So now there someone who does not know about the conflict, he will not be able to continue the conversation. So here the conversation itself ends because there cannot be a conclusion unless the two persons can discuss, decide, and dispute this. So agyanam represents the fallacy where a conversation cannot decide a matter. So this is a very useful thing for some people who do not want to get into a controversy. Sometimes they pretend ignorance. Sometimes what my position is, it's no use messing up a friendship over a political argument. So when you get into an argument, someone may be for, someone may be against, but in that thing, a lot of good relationships are hampered. So better to stay silent sometimes. But of course, where the point needs to be put across, you have to put it across. But you have to understand which part. Will it make a difference? Will it make a difference if I put my point across? So there we have to understand that, like there are a lot of people in a gathering, and so there now you have to prove your point. So you have to stand by your position. So there you might have to forego the part where you will be thinking about someone's feelings. Unless the truth is expressed, there will always be another side that will get stronger. I have seen this personally a lot of times because there are some people who are more vocal, they are able to put their point across. So uh, let's not get controversial, but in relation to this topic also, I have seen that the one side has been able to put up a lot of their videos and lot of their views on all the public media, while the other side has not been able to. So even though the other side might be right, they are not able to. So sometimes that Agyanam will appear when you think that you are not being controversial. So to avoid controversial discussions, you can't go into Agyanam. Agyanam should strictly be when you really do not have a clue about the topic. Then उत्तरस्य अप्रतिपत्ति pratibha. So pratibha is basically talent. You can understand it in another way that pratibha represents the ingenuity or the right way to go about answering a argument. So a lot of people are very good at debating. They know how to put their point across. And so now, if because of your inability to be very vocal or very expressive, then you have to be able to answer it. Another point in apratibha is that you know something, fine, but you have to recall it at the right time. So if in the Mahabharata, Karna had a good knowledge of weapons, but when he was trapped, his chariot was trapped, at that time he forgot. Of course, it was due to a curse. There was a shrap given by his guru. Parshuram. So he had said that you fooled me by saying that you are not a Kshatriya, but you are a Kshatriya. So when this knowledge that I've given you, it is I cannot take it away from you. But at a crucial time, this knowledge will not be recalled by you, right? So within apratibha also comes the uh, uh, problem when at the particular time we are not able to recall the knowledge. Like sometimes when we used to, in our school days, we would go and give an exam. So there we would know the answer, and then suddenly there we forget. And then when we would come back and we say, "Oh no, I knew that answer. I knew that, but I just couldn't recall it at that." I have read it so many times. Yeah. So this is apratibha. So apratibha is not just lack of talent in that you don't understand a proposition. That part is there, inability to reply to a proposition at the proper time, but also inability to recall. So both those things come as a part of this apratibha. Uttarasya apratipatti. So the question answer is not coming to your mind. Uttarasya apratipatti. It is not uh, emerging in your mind. then कार्य व्यासंगात कथा विच्छेदो विक्षेप. So कार्य व्यासंगात कथा विच्छेद विक्षेप. If you split it up, so Vikshape is what? Vikshape is the logical fallacy which is called evasion. So it is a logical fallacy arising out of the situation when a person leaves an argument in the middle. Katha viched. He does a katha viched. He leaves the argument. Katha se viched kar liya. Why? Karya vyasangat. I am busy. I have some important business to do. I have some duty to do. So in this way, a person, to escape the argument, as I said, at some time it may also be because of one doesn't want to get into a controversy. At another time, also because he is not knowledgeable enough or not, he doesn't have the proper argument. So it can be in different ways. No? So here the one reason is given that Karivya Sangha. So because some work, he say, no, I'm very busy, or I just stopped by to meet you guys, and then this argument started, but I have something important to do. My mom told me to bring something as a, so to do that, the person will escape the argument and he will escape. Or sometimes in Vikshape, what is Vikshape basically? Vikshape is going in many directions. So sometimes, the person seeing that his argument is gone, then he'll say, he'll just start talking about something else. So we are talking about, suddenly we are talking about the architecture of a place, let's say Rome, and then someone is discussing and they're talking, and now this person suddenly finds uh, this he's not knowledgeable enough and he wants to get out of the argument. So you say, oh no, this very similar to place. This place is the Taj Mahal. So Taj Mahal is built of marble, and so on and so on. He will go into 10 different directions, and then he will totally obfuscate or confuse the argument, and then everyone will lose track of that and he will escape. So that is called Viksheep. So not knowing or not understanding or not having the ability to talk through all these come under sort of this point where, of course, the previous one you saw where someone is trying to there also someone is trying to escape, but here the escape is how their answer is not given. Here, instead of the answer, some other topic is raised, and there the person wanders, meanders into some other uh, topic or some other discussion, right? Or someone simply says, like in normal things, someone says, "Are ye sab bahs karke kya fayda? What is the use of all these debates? This is a waste of time and all." So using this kind of argument, it's okay. Yeah. So using this kind of argument, one can get into get away from an argument. Kari vyasangat katha vichhedah vikshepa. So just to escape any defeat or humiliation, you do some kind of evasionary tactics. And then mat anugya. स्वपक्ष दोष अभ्युपगमात पर पक्ष दोष prasango matanugya. So matanugya we saw earlier also as part of that six-fold argument. So matanugya represents that you are admitting someone's opinion by or admitting some kind of defect. So swapaksha dosha apyugama. Someone has pointed out a flaw in you. So, like I gave an earlier example, someone said, "You are a thief." So now he replies, "Then you are also a thief." So that means whether he has proved that the first person was thief or not, the second person has admitted by saying, "You are also a thief." That means he has accepted that he is a thief. Right? So swapakshe dosh abhyupagat, par pakshe dosh prasang matanugya. It is also called in Latin, we have these different fallacies, the two coke. TUQUOQUE, you2 fallacy. So I have someone says you have done this, you say you too have done this. You too. So two Koch fallacy. It involves answering the flaw in your own argument by saying the opponent has the same flaw too. स्वपक्षे दोष अभ्युपगमात पर पक्षे दोष प्रसंग. flaw in your own argument is answered by saying opponent has the same flaw also. So instead of answering the criticism, we find the same in others. So we do it a lot of times when we are, someone has caught us and we say, no, you also have the same fault. So in this way, we are seeking to deflect, but we do not realize that in a way we have admitted our fault, whereas the opponent's fault is yet to be proved. We have still not proved the opponent's fault. Hmm. So this is the mat anugya. Mat is the opinion. Huh? Mat is an opinion. So anugya, you are not following that opinion. You are going into a different direction. So now we come into the next one. This is the apekshana. I will ask questions at the end only. If anything is not clear so far, you want to have a quick question, fine. Otherwise, you can keep on continuing. So, nigraha sthana praptasya. Nigraha sthana praptasya anigraha pari anuyojya apekshanam. So apekshanam is something that needs to be censored, something that needs to be censored. So nigrasthana praptasya. So if there is a nigrasthan, there is a fallacy, then anigraha, then overlooking that fallacy and not pointing out that fallacy, even while noticing it, is another also another fallacy or occasion for review. So we must not overlook what needs to be censured. If someone has made a flaw and we don't point it out, then we also stand uh, in the wrong. We also stand in the wrong. So like you might encounter this at work also. So if some boss is someone senior than you is pointing out that you have not done a particular duty, but then you know internally that one of your colleagues was supposed to contribute and finish that duty. So until you point out your colleague's fault, you will have to take the blame. You will be censored. So there you will get into trouble. So you might do it maybe to shield your colleague. You can be shielding someone, but unless you tell it out, you call it out, you will not be able to escape. You will have to take the burden, or you will have to take the fall for the problem, whatever the problem was. It was if it was not solved, right? It can happen. No, if you work in teams, so you are doing some work, you have done your end of the work, other person has not finished, and then suddenly when the blame comes up, then you are taking up the blame because maybe you are the one who's interacting with the boss, or it can be the reverse. It can be the reverse. The other person is interacting with the boss, and he or she will not tell that the work was not done because that person didn't do the work. Instead, what happens? Other person will get blamed. One will get blamed, other will escape, even though the one who escaped was the one who was actually at fault. Or you can look at it in sports. I think most of you would know some things about cricket. So in cricket, there is a rule that if the ball strikes the pad and is going to hit the stumps, then the person can get out by what you call LBW, leg before wicket. You know that, no? Anita, George, Manisha, you know what LBW?
Like
Yes.
before wicket, but I don't know what exactly it is.
Okay, okay. So you're not a cricket fan. India, most of us are crazy cricket fans, so that's why. So basically, it's you have to get a person out. So the way to get that person, one of the ways is by leg before wicket. So in LBW, the ball should be going towards the wickets. If the wickets are broken, the person is out. But if someone puts his leg in between and without touching it with the bat, you're supposed to touch with the bat, but if you don't touch with the bat, it hits your leg, and the umpire he decides that the ball is going on to hit the stumps. He can give you out. But you know what is the rule there? The rule is that the player who is throwing the ball, the bowler, he will have to appeal. He will have to say out. He has to scream yes. So once he screams, then only the umpire can give out. So unless that fault of the player is pointed out, he will not be given out. The player cannot be given out. That is a rule. So unless the bowler appeals, the batsman cannot be given out. So that appeal is necessary. So there nigra sthana praptasya anigra paryanujya. So there is a nigra sthana. The person can be out. But unless that fallacy or that mistake or that error is pointed out, the person will not be given out. Right. So in life, whenever someone is at fault, and then that person should be pointed out. So yesterday also someone was asking that if someone is wrong, then why shouldn't we point it out? So I said, no, yes, you must, because sometimes that is a part of learning. In Shastra, we feel it's a very negative thing to not point out someone's fault, because then we are doing a person a disservice by not letting that person improve, by not letting that person correct himself, or by what we say, letting that person stay stupid always. So you are actually doing a disfavor to a person if you are not pointing out that person's fault. That person will then stay stupid for a lifetime. So you must point out that fault. So that is nigraha sthana praptasya anigraha. So in this way, we can understand this fallacy. So then the reverse one we'll look at is the reverse one. So reverse one is अनिग्रहस्थाने निग्रहस्थानः अभियोग योगः निरनुयोज्यः अनुयोगः. So anuyogah, the fallacy, anuyogah, the fallacy where you are pointing out a nigrah sthan, you are there is a nigrah sthan, but you are pointing out that there is a Nigrastan, whereas actually there is no Nigrastan, a Nigrastan. So there is no fault is not there. Fault is not there, but you are imagining a fault and you are trying to point it out. And then this, when it is pointed out, the opponent can say, "What are you saying? There is no fault." So this is called balancing the uncensurable or anuyogya. So this fallacy is due to the position where a person has pointed out a flaw and actually the fault does not exist, right? So you can see this like you can see this in the courtroom. So in the courtroom, no, someone will object. The lawyer, one lawyer is saying a position, other lawyer will object. So he will object to some lawyers will object to everything. So what will happen there? The judge will become mad. He or she will become crazy. He will become angry at someone who's objecting without any reason. And next time when that person's valid objection is coming up, that person might not be allowed to speak up. Right? So it is considered wrong by not by trying to point out a flaw when it is not there. Then when actually the flaw comes up, no, you might be censured. So that is the reason why one must be careful. Too much of objection or objection, my lord, you keep on saying too many times, and then you will find yourself in trouble later on. Right? Or I'm going into cricket again, the same example. So there also, no, if a player, for player to appeal that the other person is out. So if you appeal too much, well, it happens a lot of times. The Australians are very famous for what they call the sledging. So they're also appealing too much. That also sometimes irritates the umpire, and then the umpire will be not favorably disposed to your appeal. If you keep appealing every time the ball is hitting the pads, then what will happen is then when actually the person is out, the umpire will not be predestined or disposed towards uh, answering in the positive towards you. Hmm. Every time you're screaming in the umpire's ear, out, 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 and he will get really mad at you. So, of course, he must judge fairly, but it disturbs the objectivity of the person ruling when you are trying too many times to point out a flaw which is not there. So, when actually the flaw appears, the flaw is said to be negated. Like you heard about the story of cry wolf. No, someone would say someone would say the wolf has come, and everyone would come out, there would be no wolf. And when actually the wolf came, then no one came to protect that person. So the wolf came and ate that person. So You cannot cry wolf unless the wolf is actually there. So this one has a very short sutra explanation, but the description is a bit long if you can just look at it. So I'll just try to keep it in short and raise the valid point. So Siddhantam Abhyupetyah Aniyamat Katha Prasanga Apasiddhant. So Apasiddhant. So Apasiddhant is if there is a Siddhant. Then deviating from that siddhant, there is a proposition that has been made, changing the position. When siddhantam abhyupetya, when your siddhant or your position or your stand has been questioned or it has been negated, then abhyupetya siddhantam abhyupetya, giving up your original stance, aniyamat, going into a different direction, katha prasang apasiddhant. So you are taking a stand. Someone is constantly heckling you or harassing you with questions, and during those questions, you forget what you had originally said, and you make the mistake of accepting the opposite proposition or some different proposition. So this is a fallacy where you are in between. You just deviate from your original stance, and then your argument becomes void. So, like we can take example in the classical, here also it's given the position of Sankhya. So in Sankhya, what it says, there is one universal rule that is there for all systems, where we say Sat can never go out of existence. Whatever is existent can never cease, never cease to exist. And the non-existent thing can never become existent. So this is the main reason. So if it is there in the Gita also, that where Bhagwan Krishna in the second chapter, he says in the 18th verse, where he says that Sat is always existent. Sat is something that all remains or is existent in all three periods of time. Sat is something that never was not there in the past, nor in the future, and not now. Right. So that is the definition of Sat, ever existent. Whereas Asat is what? Asat is something that never was existent today, tomorrow, and so nothing can come out of Asat. Nothing can come out of Asat. Asat from non-existent, the existent can never come out. So now someone asks the question for such a person, then how are we seeing all these things in the world? Right. So his position is right, mind you. His position is right. His original proposition is right. But now, in the course of a discussion, he can get confused. So he will say, someone will say, how has this whole world appeared? So he answers that whatever is appeared is a modification of Prakriti, is a modification of original primal nature. So in Sankhya, we accept two realities, Purusha and Prakriti, right? So now if you say that there are two realities, Purush or Prakriti, so when you admit that, then here in Sankhya, they will say Prakriti is real. Prakriti is real. So now this person says, okay, then First, you specify whether Prakriti is Sat or Asat, whether it is real or unreal. So now he cannot justify either position. You know how? Because if he says that Prakriti is Sat, if it is Sat, that means then how did it change? How did it change to the different objects of the world? If it is real, then how can it change? So that is what he has to. He will get into trouble. And if he says that it is not real, then again from Asat, how can something come? So whether if he says Prakriti is Sat or whether he says Prakriti is Asat, either case he is caught down. So in Vedant, actually, how we answer that? We say Mithya. We use a different word. And we also say Padan Karan, Nimit Karan. So that is a different track. But basically, if a person following, say, Sankhya philosophy, he asserts that Prakriti and Purush both are real, then logically he cannot defend this position. So then he will either have to take one of these stances, and whichever he takes, he will be deviating from his own tenet, apasiddhant. His own siddhant will not be followed, right? So in this way, his position is denied. Then we do into the final one. Hetvabhasah cha yathoktaha. So this Hetvabhas is something that is a fallacy where Hetu is the cause in an argument, but it is here the Hetu is not actually a Hetu. It is Hetu ka abhas. Uh, it is a Hetu or a cause appearing like a cause, but not actually the cause. Huh? There are a lot of causes where sometimes you give a reason for something, but actually it does not fit. So this one we is written also from aphorism 1 to 4. So actually there are two separate sets of fallacies which we have already covered earlier. So this does not come here, but they are mentioned here to complete the whole set. So first, in the fifth chapter, part 1, we saw the fallacies relating to the first set of fallacies, where this one, the second part is Nigrestan, and there it was the first part is Nigrestan, and what was the first part? Nigrestan. Let's just go back. These are the first set of fallacies, the samaha, where something similar is being mentioned, sir. So all these first set of fallacies we have seen here. So after the first set, the second set we have seen in the second part. So when we look at all of these fallacies, they consider the main set. So we have Nigrastan, which where we saw the 22 kinds, and then we have the 24 kinds of first cards. The Nigrestan is in the fifth chapter, past part 2, and the Samahaj fallacies, something that is similar to a fallacy, appearing as a fallacy. So all these we saw in the fifth chapter, first part, right? So we'll just go back to the starting point. I just select it. So Jati and Nigrestan we have seen in these two. The other two kinds of fallacies, we will have to go back to the Hetu Abhas and Chal. So I'll just reach there. So two kinds of fallacies we saw in the fifth chapter. At the end is written Hetu Abhas. So this Hetu Abhas is given here in the first chapter, second part, from the fourth. So here we have five different fallacies coming under Hetu Abhas: Savyavichar, Viruddh, Prakaransam, Sadhyasam, and Atit Kalaha. So where a cause is given, and that cause is not the proper cause, so that cause can be considered a fallacy. So we have five here, and then another four fallacies we have under chalam. Chalam is trying to fool someone, trying to so like the Western fallacies of red herring. All these come under chalam. So after the first two sections of the fifth chapter, where we saw these two kinds of fallacies, the Nigrestan and Jati. So Jati we saw 24 types, the Nigrestan 22 types. Besides this, we have five and four more fallacies which were covered earlier Hetvabhas. So in Hetvabhas also, we have Anekantik Savyavichar. So a reason which is leading to so many different conclusions. Then Viruddha, a reason, a Hetu that is proving the opposite of what you wanted to prove. So where Siddhantam Abhipetya Tad Virodhi Viruddha. And then Prakaransam, you are not sticking to the actual posture that you actual discussion that was going on. You are deviating from the topic. So all these are slightly similar to some of the other fallacies also, huh? But there is always a slight difference. Then sadhya vishishta sadhatya, sadhya something appearing like a sadhya. The original sadhya is in itself in doubt. And then kalatit hetvabhas, where the timing is not right, where the point that you are discussing is not about that current time. You are going into some other time. And then, as I said, these are the five in hetvabhas. Then you have chalam. Chalam is quibble or something that you are trying to confuse the opponent. So vak chalam, relating to using different words to me confuse someone. And then there is uh, three types of vak chalam: samanya, upachar, achalam. So three kinds of vak chalam is there, and then the samanya chalam. So all these in quibbles basically are there in the fallacies where you try to confuse your opponent in different ways using chalam, by sometimes using a word that means something different, or sometimes finding a word in the opponent's argument and confusing it to mean something else, right? So all these we have covered earlier on. I will not go into the details of all of these. So you can go back to the text and maybe look them up. So overall, we have covered all the fallacies. 24 kinds of jati, 22 kinds of nigrahasthan. Earlier, we had done 5 kinds of hetvabhas and 4 kinds of chalam. These constitute the full range. So in the last sutra, we have seen the just mention of the earlier fallacies, which were done in the first chapter, part 2. Right. So that concludes our text here. So any questions about today, you can ask quickly and answer them. And once you want to ask for later, we'll do it you can maybe listen to the recordings and we can finish up those questions in another class next week. Anything about today? Anita, George, Manisha?
No, sir, none for today.
Yeah, this was very
Nothing.
simple, most of it, I think. So we have covered most of the angles of all of them. But as you would have seen in today also, there are a lot of fallacies where there is very slight difference. So if you watch carefully, you can understand the difference. But that sometimes it is just a way of expressing two different things. Sometimes two similar things can be, classified under different categories just from the way how you understand your perspective. So in this way, all these fallacies can be done. So basically what we have seen so far is awareness of all the fallacies makes you a good debater. Once you know, then you can win an argument, or you can put your point across in a much better way. Or if someone is not putting their point in a proper way, or someone is trying to, fool the audience, you can always correct them, and you can put the right thing in front. Right. So because always there will be a lot of information available to people, by which so many different kinds of views can be established. Now, sometimes there are people who have established an argument merely through uh, a lot of people saying the same things. So they will each refer to each other and say this, he has said, he has said, he has said. But the original argument, where it came from, you will not find it. And using this chain, they establish an argument. So all these things are done by people even in the modern age to establish their point. So that is why it is very much necessary that when you know about something, you should take care to spread that knowledge, to let people know, especially if it is going to affect the events around you, or even affect your own living status or existence, right? So that is why it is necessary. So we will conclude this class then. Thank you all for joining in. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you all of you for coming to this class and attending and helping me complete this text. Thank you to Lord Maharaj Ji for helping us go through with all of this, for providing us this opportunity to going through this. And thanks to all my gurus, my teachers, from whom I learned everything, because none of this knowledge is my own. I've learned from the teachers who have taught me. And I hope all this sets up something in your life that will change the way you think, bring positivity into your life, and help you deal with life in a better way. Hari Om.